don't you start?
Oh, okay.
What are we doing? Yeah.
How many years ago is this?
I want to say maybe 5. 2012.
Oh wow, almost 6 years.
A while ago.
Okay, so we've been building for a while, known each other for a while because of guitar building, and we decided, I guess 6 years ago.
We're always looking for an excuse to build something.
Yeah, especially starting something new.
Yes.
So we decided that we would do a set of secret builds. Filippo would build one, I would build one, and...
You build one for me,
yes.
I build one for you.
Yes, correct. So
with some rules.
Yes. And then we'd swap them at the end, but the rules were each of us picks a wood, and we pick a style that the other is going to build in. And other than that, it has been a secret until today.
And the woods that we picked had to be in both guitars.
Yes.
So there were 2 types of wood that had to be somewhere in the both guitars. And you picked? Oh, did I pick Madrone Burl?
No,
I picked the black and white ebony.
Yeah, and
it's been a long time.
And it was the Burl from me,
yeah,
a Boyna Burl.
A Boyna Burl, that's
yes.
right.
Did you put Madrone in it, or so both guitars have those 2 woods. Filippo asked me to build him a acoustic archtop, so that is the platform that I used for those 2 woods, and then
flamenco.
Yes.
That you could sing with.
Yes, there we go.
That was the idea.
Because I, as of right now, have no idea how to play anything on the flamenco.
Nylon string guitar with your singing, that's kind of a cool thing.
And it has to be loud because I'm obnoxious with my singing. So.
It had to be loud.
All right, let's start with one. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay. This was very difficult to find a case for.
It's huge.
Well, it is not a standard-sized instrument.
What does this case go to?
I think it's a small jumbo case. That's what I think it was.
8 inches tall.
Elements of it required the case to be that thick.
Oh, wow.
So specifically, this bridge required the case to be that thick.
Look at that.
Oval hole archtop, single pickup. It's got the volume and tone attached to the pick guard here.
Pick guard's wicked.
And then, so it's actually got a domed back like a acoustic, flat top acoustic, but it is archtop through and through.
That's awesome. I love that volute.
Diamond volute. Why not?
Yeah, with the backstrap.
Backstrapped diamond volute, because
awesome.
Why the heck not?
Look at that. That is freaking gorgeous.
So the 2 woods, the fretboard is the black and white ebony, and then the Boyna Burl makes a show in what's called radial purfling around the edge of the top, as well as a detail on the tail graft.
And so the woods are?
Flame maple.
Flame maple.
Spruce, Sitka.
Yeah.
Flame maple neck, soft maple, but carbon fiber reinforced on the inside.
Yeah.
Black and white ebony for the fretboard. And then ebony binding with Boyna Burl purfling, and also kind of Boyna Burl on the tail graft there.
Oh, look at that. Okay, here's a detail that you don't really see easily, right? Look at the tail. That's pretty cool.
So I
very neat.
Actually went to a art museum in Amsterdam while I was working on the box.
Yeah.
And there was a specific exhibition where the artist did a lot of work like that, and I was like, I want to include this somehow in the build, and so that was kind of thrown on there. And actually the binding was sawn off the fretboard after it was tapered, so it's not perfect because of the kerf of the thing, but it actually matches up the black and the white as best as possible.
It's actually kind of cool because it doesn't look it doesn't look faux bound, so it actually looks bound.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, but with the same wood.
Some of the cooler things that I wanted to talk through is it's got that compound bend on the back of the neck area between the 2 points that lets your hand really get in there. But I've done this before, but it's been for set necks. I finally figured out how to do it with a bolt-on. Now for an archtop, obviously you don't really have to have a bolt-on, but it was nice to have this instrument to use as a proof of concept.
Yeah. So
that for acoustics in the future, I'm not worried about neck resets and that sort of thing.
Right.
Other little innovations that are on this guy is there was very little space here for me to attach this floating pickguard, so I was a little worried that it would break. So I used some of my newer technologies in the shop to handle that. Basically, it is a sandwich of ebony veneers and carbon fiber that keeps that rigid.
Yeah, which you
And-
can't see.
Yeah, and then also all the mounting brackets, from the one that holds the pickup on to the one that holds the pick guard to the neck, are all 3D printed on my 3D printer.
Nice.
And then the final thing that I wanted to point out was this bridge. So at the time when I was putting this guitar together, I was talking to someone about archtop guitars and how the actual bridge affects, the weight of the bridge affects the instrument. And I did a little bit of a weird bracing pattern. I talked to Eric Solomon about this. So it's a thinner top with 3 fan braces that go from the oval hole back. And with that in mind, I wanted a nice light bridge on that because it's not a super heavily
So
braced
this is not
top.
one piece, is it?
It is not. So
But
that
I
is
can barely see tell.
yeah. I built that out of 1/8" thick ebony. So all 4 sides of it
Oh.
were built up on a ultra high molecular weight plastic mold,
Yeah,
so that when I glued them together, it wouldn't stick to the mold.
yeah.
And then the
Look at
top
that.
was flattened, and the
Yeah,
top
I
was
can see.
you added in this case buffalo horn to match the
Yeah.
nut.
Yeah,
But you can put bone on there or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's actually hollow inside if you pull that bridge off.
that's cool. Well, yeah, the whole thing, I mean, I would say a couple of things. One, I mean, it's light.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the instrument is not heavy. That's awesome. The recurve is crazy.
Yeah, it's got deep recurve.
It's got deep recurve.
That's part of that whole minimally braced thing. And
Yeah.
when you play it, you'll see that even for a 15-inch instrument, it's pretty loud. And then yeah, what was also fun, and this made the recurve a real pain because it's burl.
Yeah.
But that Amboina
Oh, yeah.
burl purfling around the edge, it actually
yeah.
goes between the red heartwood and then it'll transition to the sapwood and then
Yeah.
transition back, and it does it in a couple spots.
So and then back. So tell me a little bit about how you did the block and all of that back in here.
So on a typical acoustic neck, you've got those that heel going pretty far down, and the bolts
Yeah.
are coming in like this.
Yeah.
So you have different forces at work here. In my case, you've got bolts that come up through this neck block that sits up here, and that really kind of changed how the rotational forces are into
Yeah.
play. So I actually have a fairly large neck block up here,
And then I
large
noticed.
for an acoustic at least.
And then I noticed you've got reinforcement.
Yes, so I didn't want this to introduce any torque
Yeah.
to the body or the top, and so with that in mind, it's got 2 carbon fiber buttresses per side that actually take some of that rotational force and buttress it out to the sides in the nice rigid spot where you've got your waist bends.
Yeah, nice binding work too. Really nicely done.
This was the first instrument I've ever bound by hand, and what I mean by that is I actually cut the channels with a Gramel. I didn't.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I didn't use the binding jig or any of that.
I mean, it's tight.
It's fully Grameled by hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's tight. I think you kind of outdid yourself
Oh, why, thank you, sir.
on this. It's very nicely done. I mean, the details are just great. Plus, to figure out all of this stuff and actually end up with a guitar that works is like no
Well,
small feat.
It's
I
been
mean-
strung up for a couple of weeks now, so
That's
I'm
cool.
going to assume it's going to continue
wicked.
working.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I have no qualms. I've banged on it a bunch.
That's a surprising amount of bass. It's cool. It's really neat.
Okay, so this is a Charlie Christian style slimline jazz pickup. It's by John Anthony Guitars. He goes by Baytone for his pickups. But I was actually really happy, surprised in a happy way, how well the Charlie Christian pickup actually works with these Foster bronze strings.
It's got a really neutral sound, which is really nice. Very balanced.
Yep.
Like nothing jumps out and tries to jump ahead.
Well, one of the funny things is on Instagram I did a quick video when I first put this pickup on and tried it out. And I looked and saw what it would sound like with distortion, just for shits and giggles. And I was playing some of the Darkness songs, and it actually, this acoustic guitar will actually play like rock and everything too.
Super cool. I can't believe how good it sounds plugged in.
Yeah.
It's got a, I mean, this pickup worked really well for this. Because,
And I just wanted to try a Charlie Christian. I knew I had to
and
put
it's
something
nice
floating,
because-
so I figured.
it's nice because acoustically, I'm kind of really surprised at the bass. And one of the things I would say is a lot of archtops tend to be a bit dull.
Very thin, they're flatter carbs, and so I went sort of that route, and it gives you a more responsive top, almost like a flat top instrument, than more the compressed sort of typical jazz archtop sound that you get out of traditional instruments.
It's got great sound. It's awesome.
Cool.
Super cool. Well, you outdid yourself. That's for sure. I mean, this doesn't look like
Is it what you
anything.
expected?
Yes. Conceptually, yes. I mean, I didn't really know. Well, okay, so that's a loaded question. What's really cool, the reason I can say yes is because when I look at this guitar, it has all your design language in it.
Yeah.
It looks like a guitar you made. Because
I mean,
it has
it's
all
the
of
culmination of all the weird stuff that I worked on.
Yeah, so in that way, when I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's the guitar you made, obviously, right? So it has your look, totally. I mean, this is just kind of a lot to take in because it's not like anything I've seen.
The engineering
Super
behind
cool.
it was really...
Yeah, it's super cool. But absolutely, yeah, it's unbelievable. I'm actually kind of surprised. I'm surprised at how much brightness is in the sound for an archtop, which is super cool. That's kind of my one complaint around a lot of the archtops is, you know, they kind of tend to have a very flat sound.
What's that compressed?
And it's easier. Well, yeah, and the funny thing is, it's easier to put that into a sound than it is to take it out. This pickguard's a little detail, but it's so well executed.
Well, that was the absolute final thing to come together of the design. I had actually finished the instrument before I even designed the
this whole
pickguard.
thing here is just so wicked looking. And you know, that's no small feat because the rest of the guitar, like in and of itself, has got a lot going on. And so to make this hang, like with the rest of the guitar, is really awesome.
Well, here's
I
the
don't
funny
take that
thing.
for granted.
I first designed that pickguard, and like I said, I designed it after the instrument was actually finished. So it's the newest part. But I designed it and I started showing it around, and people generally didn't like it, but I knew it was the right thing to do.
It's totally the
And
right
then I
thing.
built it and showed it to people, and they were like, okay, we
Yeah,
get
on
it
the
now.
guitar, it's totally right.
Yeah,
All right, so now we're going to talk about your guitar.
okay.
One of the things that was different when we set off to do this, you were looking at doing some prototype stuff, and so one of the things I'm remembering from now talking about this
Now that
morning,
you've seen it.
I'm going back and I'm remembering that you were talking about doing this prototype, you know, the neck thing with the acoustic, and you were wanting to do that, and we were discussing doing this exchange thing, and it was like, okay, well, why don't you work on that prototype for me, right, and as an art shoppy thing, right? And so you were in prototype land.
Yeah.
So in my case, for building for you, we talked about doing this flamenco thing, and at the time, you know, the idea was that you sing a lot, you know, when you play, and the idea was for you to have a nylon string guitar that you could sing with.
Yeah.
Now, part of the challenge, so for me, I wasn't building a prototype, I was building an instrument very specifically for you to do some very specific things with. So that's where this came from. So I'm going to talk about that for just a little bit before we pop this open and get into the guitar. So, so of course I've heard you play and sing a lot. You have a loud voice. You have a powerful voice. That's challenging with a nylon string
Yeah.
guitar because this guitar is going to have to keep up with your voice. So one of the things is I was building this instrument, people would come by and they would listen to the box, and they couldn't believe how loud the box was, like a drum.
Gotcha.
You know, it was like, yeah, because you don't know the guy's voices, so you got to keep up with, right? So I had to focus on that a lot. But then the rest of it, and this was just a real, it was a lot of fun for me building this guitar. This guitar is completely one-off off the wall. This is my interpretation. This is a Chris guitar. It's my, it was my mental image of a guitar that, you know, if you we're going to build a flamenco and his name was Chris, this is what that guitar was going to be. Has a lot of Chrisisms in it and details and things that, you know, speak to you but might not speak to somebody else. So I had a lot of fun figuring out what those were. We've been around each other for 10 years doing stuff, and I think one of the things that's been really great, and I kind of take it for granted, is we're always kidding around about crap all the time, right? So there's always poking and ribbing and all of this stuff, and which is good because in building guitars, like, we spend so much time pulling our hair out when we screw stuff up, right? So part of the thing that was fun for me was, at the time, I kind of remember that you weren't a particularly big fan of maple. I don't remember why or how or whatever.
Things have changed.
Okay. So, so that also went into my factoring as to how I made the guitar.
Okay.
Okay. So with that said.
Oh, cool. So it's funny, we both used the black and white ebony in a very similar manner. Oh dang, that is cool. There's even a Filippo Morelli wax seal in the sound hole.
So this thing is built with some of the craziest curly bird's eye maple you'll ever see.
Look at that. And he's smart. As far as maple goes, bird's eye is one of my favorites.
Yeah, this wood has so much going on, including the set I used, because I cut this out of boards. I kept the set that had, like, you know, the knot detail in, because I know you like that
You know
kind
how
of thing.
I am.
Exactly.
I like wood.
Right.
That is cool. So tell me about it.
Okay. So it's got black and white ebony. In my case, when I did what would be a faux binding, I actually took some ebony that was, you know, black, and I used that. So it is black and white ebony.
Gotcha.
Right, but just, you know, so it actually.
And you had a lot more of the white in the board, anyways.
Yes. Yeah, yours is more mottled.
Yep.
And this one is more striated, I guess I would say, right? So, so I chose to use the black and white ebony in the fretboard and in the bridge.
Okay.
And this is all, you know, hand carved. A bit of a pain in the butt. This is kind of very, very cool. You'll see exceptionally few guitars have that. It's got an 18-hole bridge.
What the?
It's super wicked cool.
That is
The
cool.
third hole in each of these is half drilled.
Okay.
So you sink the string end in.
Huh.
And
So it's not poking out at you.
Yeah, and if you haven't had a acoustic guitar, what that does is it lets, sometimes when the treble string's let loose, it'll string slap and put a dent in the top. This can't do that.
Gotcha.
So it's a very clean, very modern look. Okay, it's got the same ambonia here in the tie block, right? And this is buffalo, actually black buffalo horn.
That's so
on the
funny.
edge. And it's
Even
kind
that.
of funny, isn't it? And then this is Alaskan yellow cedar on the top. And I did that because maple tends to be a bit bright.
Okay.
So this kind of mellowed
Mellows
it out a little bit. It's a very thick guitar for a classical style guitar, and this is because I needed the volume to generate the you know, the sound. So it's got an elevated.
I was looking at that.
Elevated fretboard.
It's almost got. Does that have a negative angle? Yeah. Okay.
It has a negative angle, and it's elevated. Right. It comes to a point here, and then carbon fiber rods in here, no truss rod. This is all Eastern hard curly maple, done with bloodwood. And as you know, working with bloodwood
maple next to bloodwood.
bit of a pain in the butt.
Why would you do that to yourself?
When you, if you take a mirror and start going inside, you'll see all kinds of little details. Like this end block has got stuff, you know, inset in it. They're little details, like, you know, that are for you.
Gems.
Right? I made all of the supports and everything out of bloodwood, include all the kerf lining and everything, right? So it's all you know, done in that way. This uses what I call the Reynolds C block architecture neck block. It's a piece of mahogany that's a C, and it's a bolt on.
So it's foot on the top.
And then yeah, and then the UTB and whatever structurally, they're actually all attached to the net block, and then the top is put on.
Okay.
So this is all very.
And how does that neck attach to that? Is that bolt?
Two bolt.
Okay,
Yeah,
bolts.
two hex guides in there, and it pops right off. And then it has, you know, I mean, being with you, it had to have a back strap. Tuners are Rubners from Germany.
Yeah, I like the
nicely done.
Ivoroid on there. Yeah.
Yeah, they're nicely done. Evo wire, which on a classical guitar will never be replaced.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. That's a lifetime of fret wire right there.
Exactly. Nitro lacquer. Okay, this is flamenco bracing. Why did I go with the flamenco approach? Because the flamenco bracing tends to favor a rapid note die-off.
Okay.
And that's in part because the way that flamenco plays, if you had too much sustain, it just becomes muddy, it's fast, right? So I thought that was a better bracing structure for someone who's probably going to strum and sing with the guitar. I don't want a lot of sustain in that.
Gotcha. Yep.
You know, so that's why we went with the flamenco. This is my standard classical, you know, headstock design. I'll just point out to you because you like this kind of stuff. When I designed this, I designed it so that a machine actually couldn't make it. So, right, so there's some handwork that I have to do, right? And I did that on purpose because they're hand-built guitars, right? So these details up in here are too small, and this little inset here,
yep, absolutely.
I have to do all of that by hand.
Well,
So
even
that's
here
all hand cut.
as well.
Yes.
That ramp angle, but still having that detail there.
So all of that stuff has to be done by hand to actually do this, and so, you know, it's a detail for people like you and I.
Well, I only know classical stuff. I don't know any flamenco at this point, but that's... And something a little more exciting than Carcasia tunes as well would probably be... Like, I forget all my Bach, like the... Yeah, see, that's... Jesus is just a Spanish boy's name. How come one man got so much fame? To any me, it's pointless to anybody who doesn't have faith. Give me the cloth and I'll wipe my face. When it's all done, something carries on, and it's not more of it at all. Just when nature's had enough of you, when my blood drops, someone else's will stop. When my head rolls off, someone else's will turn. And while I'm alive, I'll make tiny changes to earth. So show me some flamenco stuff. What I should be learning to play
or
on.
whatever to play on it? Oh, I mean, we won't do let's see. Let's do
I might have looked the other way and I'd have never been aware, but as it is, I'll dream of her tonight. Die, 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 die. Falling, yes I am falling, and she keeps calling me back again. Falling, yes I am falling, and she keeps calling me back again. Did it keep up? I can hear it.